Hello, everybody. Cal Griffin, and those that are going to join us that will listen. I appreciate your time. And again, as a disclaimer and reminder, this is not affiliated with any group, and it is also a hallowed ground, and we do not go with any orientation or identification with any as such. This is purely for self-growing, growing as a person, and self-development, and help build a person in their path as they move along in the river of life. With that said, I'm going to be talking about integrity today, which I think in this day and time might be important. But however, leading up to this with integrity and what helps support that. And I may leave something out. So let's get this party started. So, one is accountability, knowing the motive behind the reason and being honest about those motives without justifying them before we hold anyone else accountable. We ask ourselves if we are justified in action or thought and take this into account. And then also we look at responsibility, and we could look at this as personal responsibility. Taking action to change and make amends, to correct your behavior and not to repeat the same actions that caused harm. There's going to be a moment that we all that we will and act in no regards towards others. When this happens, we step forward to face our wrongs, or or we can stop the wrong from causing further harm. We do what we can to stop it. If our intentions are good and harm comes along, we apologize for the error in judgment and action, and are willing to accept what we have done. But we also bring to light the intent and who was involved. Okay. And then also with that is acknowledgement. Do not ignore or neglect a situation that needs attention, which can be both simple and difficult to see. When this happens or is brought to our attention, we take the matter into consideration and look for the next best step to take. This can be on an individual level, but also can involve situations with others, but boundaries are also necessary. Now, where integrity comes in, and also character has a part in this as a person. Integrity is doing what we say we're going to do and supporting that. But in that, we're also considering everything else. It's not just a blind act. Integrity, we keep to our word. We do what we say, and we say what we do, and we mean it. And that in itself is important, because that will also show the character of a person. And we have to remember, if this person is upholding anything they have said and had said, I will, and I will do what I can. they are holding themselves to that. And yes, accountability, personal responsibility, and that if we've looked at where our mistakes are and what we have decided to change that is causing harm, or if we need to help fulfill a need or responsibility, ability, or even on a job, we have said, I will do what I can and I will change needed or what is needed within myself or what is going on around me at the establishment. Or we basically are binding ourselves to it. And in many ways, this has gotten forgotten because people want to run a double standard. And the double standard doesn't have integrity. Because how can you hold somebody else to something when you're not willing to do it yourself? That has no integrity. And it shows a lack of character. And in the way the temperature is and the way the world is working today, this is clearly evident of this lacking and the neglect of it. And so I think it's important and almost imperative that this be brought up and this be addressed. Because how can one side or one thought set the rule when yet there's an hypocrisy in it? That's not integrity. You cannot set a standard that's lacking. A standard is for the whole, which is beneficial to everyone and not an ideology. The person who is sticking with the integrity and the character to maintain that and how to respond with it is the example. And all things are taken into account. Our morals, our ethics, and what we do and display. Because what we're doing is representing those before us. We are representing what they taught us. We, in a way, are their legacy. We carry on that legacy. And we have to have the integrity to show this. Without it, it's lost. And if it's lost, what good was it to teach us in the first place? You know, one thing that my dad was big on was integrity. And he would expect me to come to him and say, Dad, I screwed up. And don't lie to him about it. Just come forth with it. And when I was younger, I was like, you know, this old man's crazy. Why do I want to come to him and be honest? Well, the reason in integrity and display and an action in integrity and a display of character with it, or the character to uphold that integrity, is being highly forthcoming. Because things are always going to be worse once the truth actually comes out. And then again, too, yes, you have to have the integrity. Yes, I didn't say what actually was going on. I messed up. and say it and apologize. But there's too much justification. And how come one isn't stepping forward? Too much justification and not apologizing, and too much justification. And how come we're not doing? And this affects us immediately and those around us. And no, not everybody agrees, but integrity are the one or is the practice of sticking with good morals and good principles and good ethics. Those are the foundation that keep a person with good character in line. They are that person you can trust. They are that person you can rely on. And if one is not willing to do any of that, and they are willing to change, manipulate, whatever for their own gain, is a person with no integrity and no character. That is good for no one and is not a good influence or example. And in that, people want to justify a double standard. Why is that? What is the person has to fear? Is it because of the fear of I made a mistake or I'm wrong and admitting that? Or is it because you're influenced by something else and you're afraid of being treated as others would treat the person they don't agree with? Integrity is looking to do what's right, to do what's best. And if you're a parent raising a child, that child learns just like a teacher to a student, a mentor to a student, or to someone who's being mentored. Those are impressionable things. And if one can't learn it at home, they're going to learn it from somewhere else. So there has to be a trust, and that person has to be worthy of trusting. And one with integrity and good character is that person to trust. Now, I know we're all not perfect and we all make mistakes. And even with the person with the best integrity and the reliable person will and does make mistakes. No one is infallible. But however, if that person can say, I made a mistake and own up to that and then make good, that person has integrity. And they stick by their apology because an apology isn't just something to smooth things over. An apology is meaning what you've said. You recognize I messed up and you deal with it. And that is where a person with integrity takes the responsibility, takes on the accountability to it, and do it the right way, which is our ethics. Good ethics, solid ethics. Now, some may disagree with this because it doesn't align or agree. However, if one is to grow spiritually and to be healthy spiritually, this is an imperative thing. You can't just say you're one thing and not be that, not display it. And again, yes, people are going to stumble, people are going to fall, but it's what you do after you get back up. How can I rectify? How can I have a redeem? How can I amend? Person who has integrity will do what it takes to amend it.
That reminds me of a song.
Sure.
It goes, what you say is your religion, how you say it's your religion. Something like that. Going into all these different things, saying like how we have things like character and integrity, how that goes into how people perceive us and our groups.
That's a good point because, people come to groups to find something, because they need something, or they're wanting something, they're craving, they're needing. They're looking for something to give them nourishment. And when a person's soul is hungry and when they're in need, you give them that good food. And what we say and what we do and what we display and show and give is that nourishment. For Christian people, it's God, it's Jesus, and the Holy Trinity, and all that goes with that. It's all of that. And then for those that are spiritual, Jedi, for us, it's the Force and the codes, and even Sith, and even all of that. Everybody in a path that causes development and growth. One also with good character and good integrity will look to see where they can change and put in the work to do it and make no excuse. I'm going to kind of go off here in the Jedi, on the Jedi path here for a second. That, people talk about the Sith code and the Sith and how they're always wanting to dominate. Okay. This was brought up in a topic in a group recently. And they were talking about the domination thing. It's like, where does it say in that code to dominate? It says to victor over. That victor over, to victor over, to have victory. And the chains that bind, I shall break them. That isn't to dominate and to destroy. That is to work through and improve yourself without making excuses. to say, I accept my part in this, and to not be influenced by one with ulterior motives that are not good. If one has good integrity, they will not manipulate. They will come to you straightforward. They will be forthcoming. And if need be, maybe a bit blunt, maybe a bit rash. However, them doing that, is that actually for the better and benefit? I would think so. Because they're cutting through the BS. Just like anybody who's a Christian. One of the things that the Christian faith has is, if you see the devil and you see the devil's works, you call it out and you manage it and you deal with it and you confront it. What makes that any different than a person and their own integrity? It's basically the same thing. You know, and the way things are, the lack of any of it. A person with integrity won't always look at what's fair. They will look at what needs to be. And though this person may wrestle internally with how they feel and weigh everything out, they will still do what's in the best interest and what will benefit and what is the long term as a result. And they're not going to lie or BS themselves or anybody else. And they are going to hold everybody else to the same standard they openly practice. It's not just just do what I say. No, it's not that. The one who truly has integrity will do what they ask of you, and they will display it. They will show it, and you will see it in what they do, because sometimes they won't always say. They will show you in what they're doing without mentioning a word. They are a person of action. Now, do we all fall short of that? Sure, we do. I fall short of it all the time. But it's how well we each try and work to do our best to maintain and uphold that. And if we fall short and we can't say or are unable to complete or follow through with something we've said we were going to do, we go, I'm sorry, I have done what I can. Or I'm sorry, I haven't been able to do it. But I will get to it and it will be done. And you stick to that. And if all else fails and it just cannot be done, at least make some attempt, real attempt, honest attempt to do it. And it's like, if you can't do it, then turn to somebody and go, hey man, I am in over my head. Have the humility. Then that way it can be done. And a word was kept. But we can't let pride get in the way. We can't let our ego say, oh, no, they'll be okay. That's not how it works. Integrity sets the ego aside. It is an act of humility. It's also compassion, because you're looking out for the best interest of everything. And you're displaying the empathy to take everything into account and to try to understand to the best of your ability. And that makes a difference. And mistakes will be made. I'm not saying excuse the mistakes. Don't, well, no, there was other things. Don't make the excuse. Step forward. Show if you claim to be a Christian, be that Christian you claim to be. But in being that Christian you claim to be, don't exclude others that are friends because they're not. If each person is a true friend, they will still open their ears to hear something that might be of importance, that might be something they need. Same as if you're a Jedi or anything else, Buddhist, Taoist, all of that. You will still show and do what you can. Integrity is not something that's poisonous. Integrity is something that is to build a person to be a better person. Integrity is to show your flaws, to open the wounds so you can manage through them and deal with them. And then become a better person once you've walked through it and experienced it. And then you are a better person. And then you can display what you have become. And with
By
that,
actions.
yeah, exactly. By your actions. And that is a lot of it. The display. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And no one's perfect. But here's the contradiction in that. And I said this, and I learned this from an electrician one time. That is the perfection in it. Anybody and everybody designed the way they are designed for a reason. How can that be a mistake? You are as you were born, and when your mom gave birth. That is perfection. The flaws are there for a reason. It's like in I think it's the Japanese culture and the pottery that yes,
Everything's slightly off. It's not exactly perfect, but there's some sort of beauty still found in it.
exactly. And the gold is that representation.
It's to show off the imperfection of this happened, something got broken, we're putting it back together, we're gluing it together, and then we're showing off this imperfection. And when a child will knock it over, it'll be like, well, we remember this experience and we're celebrating it.
Yeah, because it becomes a beautiful thing. Our flaws can be beautiful because each flaw in us is unique. It's different. There's the perfection. And yeah, that might bake some people's noodles. It baked mine at first, like, what, perfection? Wait a minute, I'm all messed up. I'm all jacked up. How can that be perfect? It's for a reason. There are no mistakes. But if one tries to change what actually is, that is the flaw. Things are the way they are for a reason.
Our mistakes help us get to our present, and it allows more opportunities for better things.
Exactly. Exactly. And but in order to have a higher rate of integrity, a better integrity, We have to go through all of that. You know, sometimes you got to walk through a puddle to get to dry land, right? Sometimes you got to have wet shoes. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, dog might poop on the carpet. Accidents happen. So, but in that, the dog learns to not. But the integrity in teaching that dog is to be able to get that dog to learn how to go outside. You've upheld your responsibility to that animal, unless you want to live in a stinky house. But if you got cats and you got a litter box, that's kind of one of them things that happens, you know. Those that own cats, they get it. But you still provided something for the cats. But I think that the understanding and the lack of the understanding of what integrity is has been missed. And again, when I started, I said in this day and age and in this time, I think it's more important because there are young people growing up that haven't experienced what true and real integrity is. And that's frankly disappointing because to develop the character and integrity and all those things that develop it as in action, one has to be able to deal with and face. And ignoring it and hiding from it is going to do you or no one any good.
This reminds me of the stoicism thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a matter of evaluation. It's a matter of our emotions not taking precedence. There's nothing wrong with us having the emotions, even with a person with the most with the utmost integrity is still going to experience their emotions. But it's not to allow that to influence. You know, I referred earlier in this to my about my dad. And I have a great respect for that man. I learned more about who he was after his passing. I learned more about who the man was and what he did and how much the community around him respected the man. Gang members respected that man. Gang members defended that man. If he was, if an ounce of respect or a show of disrespect was said and displayed behind his back in the school he was administrating at, those gang members would back him up without him being there and correct that person. Say, don't you dare do that. That's a good man. It's because he had integrity. He was willing to deal with what needed to be dealt with and complete it thoroughly. Did he make mistakes along the way? Oh, I'm sure he did. Did he learn from them? I'm sure. If he hadn't, the community wouldn't have respected him. There are teachers that, when he retired, were greatly upset. There are teachers that wanted to follow him If he decided to go to another school, they would follow him. He was a leader, and a leader has the integrity. They are followed because they give the people what they need and what they want, which is security, which is responsibility, and they will be held to those responsibilities themselves by that person. Will they like it? Probably not. But will they respect it? Hopefully so. But integrity is that acknowledgement and that responsibility. And the humility, I think. Let me go back here. Come on up. Open up. Open. Oh, it's right up here. Yeah, the respect, our principles, humility, accountability and responsibility, and acknowledgement, and the ethics. All of those. All of those. All of those lend themselves to integrity and character. You have to have good character to have the good integrity. And I'm sorry, my tongue's in the way. But I'll have a word with it later. So, so, you know, and I hope that what's being said is
How you froze? How? How? Hello.
hey,
Hi. You
hey, okay,
froze.
all right. So I hope what I've gotten on my soapbox about helps. Have I got a long ways to go? Yeah. But it's what we strive for. Am I going to make more mistakes? Yeah, probably. Have I made many? Yes. And are the people that are going to hear this, are they going to be without any mistakes? No. But it's how much are people willing to work on it and live by it? You know, your word means a lot to people. And in this day and age of the keyboard warrior, the people that stand just type, and even me, you know, behind, you know, in front of this computer and spewing all this off, it's easy for me to say all of that and it's everything I'm saying, and that's true. It's easy for me to say it. But on the other side, I hope this helps people to not make some mistakes that I've made that were very painful. But we gain that character from it. It shapes us. And I'm going to give a little history here, and I'm going to give a little history here, and this is going to be a little, maybe go in a little different direction here. But however, when we make mistakes, and when I've made my mistakes, I didn't want to share those. I didn't even want to get in front of a camera. I didn't even want to share these lessons that I've come to find out now are reaching people all halfway across the world. And people are listening. It's like, how can I, someone who's made mistakes and that to this day is working through some of them, still influence, still give somebody or some people, a party, a group? Well, apparently it's important enough. And apparently it's nourishment, I hope. And I didn't want to sit here and just spew this out. But however, again, there's a reason. And, some people say there's a calling. Well, apparently, you know, uh, apparently this may be one of them for me to help others because I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. But yeah, I didn't want to get here and do this. But I got shanghaied by somebody, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I got shanghaied into doing something that ended up becoming something that's growing. And other changes are happening that's causing people to join, to show up. That means, yeah, this was needed. Because that means with this and people around the world, that means they have joined in. That means they are taking part. Am I going to see it? Probably not. But however, maybe there is more here. And I hope that whatever I've said helps. And with all that being said, I bid all of you good day and growth. Tal Griffin out. Thank you.